Peace and greetings. This is the Artismith Yoga podcast. Incorporating Sanskrit and chanting into your yoga classes. So, chanting using Sanskrit, it's super beneficial to the practice, right? You are saying the name of a particular pose, and that Sanskrit name has been spoken for thousands of years. Okay? And there's an energetic resonance that happens when you say the name of a pose in Sanskrit. It's extremely powerful when we are able to tap into that energy, the energy that is created when you use these Sanskrit terms. So, using Sanskrit is super beneficial. And another thing that it adds to, it helps to root yourself in tradition. Okay, there's there's I like to use a phrase, and I call it modern traditional. Okay, modern traditional. And what I mean by modern traditional is simply anybody that understands the way traditions are passed down and the way they work. They know that every generation puts their thing on it, whether they want to or not, whether they think they do or not, they put their thing on it. Every generation shifts and changes things just a little bit. Okay, that's one of the things that's happened with yoga. Yoga has changed a great deal, right? But there's core things that you do to help root yourself in the tradition. Sanskrit, in this modern traditional concept, Sanskrit is one of the glue elements that helps us to keep it traditional, right? To help keep it traditional. So, how do you start to incorporate chanting in Sanskrit into your class? The first thing to do is number one, okay, do you chant? If you chant, what chants do you like? What chants do you use? Okay, you want to know what the chant is saying. Now, this is up for debate. Some some folks will say you don't need to know you don't need to know what it says. You just say it. The vibration is healing, and that's enough. I'm from the camp of I want to know what I'm talking about. I want to know what I'm saying. I'm not going to just chant something and I don't know what it means. I want to know what it means, right? There's a certain amount of energy that happens when you know what it means, right? They say you don't need to know. And okay, I get that because I understand that there's an energetic vibration that happens when we say these Sanskrit terms. I understand that. However, I still want to know what I'm saying. I want to know what the translation is. So I highly recommend if you chant in your classes, you want to know what it means. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, if you 9 times out of 10, you're going to come across a student that's going to say, what does that mean? Right? And you, as a yoga teacher, need to say, oh, you need to know what it means. You need to be able to say it means this, this, and this. Right? If you can't do that or don't want to do that, you probably shouldn't be chanting. You probably shouldn't be. You need to again know what the chant is saying. Okay, and then there you can creep in, if you don't know a chant and you feel a little intimidated by it, but you still want to incorporate it. You still want to have that as a part of your yoga practice. The easiest chant that you can do, and arguably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful chant, is Om. right? You simply Om in the beginning of the class. And when I begin my classes, I say, I go through a process of getting everyone centered. And part of that process, I say, okay, centering further by chanting one round of the Sanskrit mantra Om. Om is said to be the universal sound of all sounds, something we can say together to unify the practice. If you'd like to join me for the Om, you can. If not, you can just listen along and enjoy the vibration. That is a very good way to introduce chanting to a class. The Om, let's talk about Om for a brief moment. Om is spelled Aum in Sanskrit. And you have I've heard two different pronunciations from two different reliable Sanskrit scholars, right? One of them says it's Om, and the other one says it's Om. So, because it's spelled Aum, and so when you say the word you open the mouth, that's ah. You start to slowly close the mouth, oh, and then the mouth is closed. Oh, it's become complicated. I've seen people, um, like some people like to sing it. I mean, if that's your thing, that's great. But just simply opening the mouth and pushing the sound out. That's your Om. Now, the A represents the beginning. The U represents the action going through life, doing life, and the M represents the culmination or the finish. And then there is the ultimate after that, right? So your Om is, in some ways, some people say it's the name of God. It's also been said that it's the name of God. And its its roots are found in a lot of different, like for instance, in Christianity, you have Amen, Amen. So it's in there, right? So Om. Om is a really good chant for you to get your feet wet. If you're not familiar with chanting, but you want to start incorporating chanting into your classes, Om is a good place to start. And then talking about using Sanskrit words for your yoga poses, if you want to start to do that, a really good, well, so what you want to do is pick, if you don't know any Sanskrit words for your yoga poses, pick two or three of your favorite poses and find out what the Sanskrit word is. Okay. And then incorporate that Sanskrit word in your yoga classes, right? Throw that pose in there. I mean, you like, okay, I'm going to put this pose into my sequence in my yoga class, and then I'm going to use the Sanskrit word, like say it over and over again, understand it. When I did my teacher training, I was fortunate enough to do a really rigorous teacher training. We had to um, memorize and spell roughly about, I think it was probably about 30 Sanskrit words, uh, yoga poses, the name for the yoga poses. Poses like Triangle Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana. We had to spell that, and it's so, but what it did for me was it implanted it into my subconscious mind. So I know a lot of Sanskrit terms. I don't know how to speak Sanskrit, and it is a spoken language. There's a village in India where they still speak the language. They still use Sanskrit as the language in that village. So using the names for the yoga poses is going to be super beneficial for you. So find the one or two yoga poses that you feel comfortable with saying the names. and then incorporate that into your yoga class. That's a simple way to do it. And then alternate, like switch up. Okay, next week I'm going to research these two poses, find out the Sanskrit name, understand it, and then I'm going to incorporate it into my class. So you can just add it a little bit at a time. And then at the end of your class, you can also, there's also a time for you to incorporate Sanskrit in at the end of your class. There's a really awesome Sanskrit. Uh, there's a really awesome chant that you can say at the end of your classes. The chant is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Very simple, very easy, and very powerful, and it's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite chants. What does it mean? It means um, may the entire universe be filled with love and light. May the entire universe be filled with peace, love, and light. There's different translations, but that roughly that's what it says. To recap, why do we want to do why do we want to use Sanskrit in our classes? Because it helps us to keep it modern, traditional, right? It's still modern because of the day and time that we live in. We can't help but to incorporate modern things to it, but we keep it traditional by using Sanskrit every once in a while, and our class is very small, right? And so you can use it in the beginning by simply saying Om. In the middle of the class, when you're of course when you're naming the yoga poses, you choose one or two and learn the names and say then use these Sanskrit names in the class. And at the end of the class, you can use a little small saying that's in Sanskrit, or you can just simply say Om again at the end of the class, right? So that's it. Any questions, comments, or concerns, you know what to do. So until then, my friends, peace.